This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
Good evening to the audience in India and good morning in the US. So here we are yet again with our fabulous guest today. So today we will be talking about on human trafficking, of course, but in the aspect of legal and medical aspects of it. So not wasting much time, I would like to invite our guest. Our first guest is Linda Powers. She is the legal director of Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost office in the human trafficking domain, and she has been in the field since many decades now. So, welcome ma'am to our show, Connect for a Cause. It's our honor, and we are very proud to have you on our show. Our second guest of the day is Dr. Lara Wilken. She is the assistant professor at Bowling Green State University, and she has been in the field since past decade. Welcome, ma'am, to our show Connect for a Cause. We are also very honored and proud to have you today. And here I would like to introduce Mr. Harold D'Souza. He has been former member on board on Advisory Council on Human Trafficking appointed by President Obama and reappointed by President Trump, and also is the president of Eyes Open International, who has organized this event for today. This event will be an educative and informative for all our guests. So welcome D'Souza sir to our show Connect for a Cause. So before we dwell into our topic, the human trafficking, into deep, I would like to ask Honorable Linda to tell our audience about the Ohio Human Trafficking Initiative, which is being started by the Ohio State Attorney General Dave Yost office, and how you have been connected to the cause since past many years and working selflessly for the community.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today, and I appreciate you contacting me and asking me to come and speak with you today. I am, as spoken, the director of the Ohio Human Trafficking Initiative, which is under Attorney Dave Yost's office, the Attorney General for the state of Ohio. That particular unit has been in existence for approximately 4 years in its infancy. It started out as a unit of one individual who came on as a victim advocate coordinator. A training initiative started as well for that particular organization, and then it was brought on a legal advocate because it was noted that they needed a legal director that would pursue prosecution at a local level and assist and train both law enforcement as well as legal, because that piece or component was a necessity in trying to stop human trafficking before it started, as well as to educate individuals as to the victims that were out there in the state of Ohio.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot for such a great answer. Now my question is to Dr. Lara, that what motivated you to work for this cause, human trafficking? Is there any story behind it, or what's that?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you very much for having me here today. As you know, I am a registered nurse and also an assistant clinical professor at Bowling Green State University. And what has really inspired me and caused me to become so passionate about this cause was I previously used to work as a sexual assault nurse examiner, but even in sight of that as well, just my own personal journey, having been a dropout of high school, quitting school at a young age and moving to a city on my own, I really understand the vulnerabilities that people face that could lead them into a life of human trafficking. And so it's very important on the medical side that we are aware of the red flag indicators, that we are advocates for these individuals, and that we be champions for this cause.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. Now my question is to Mr. D'Souza that we have heard your story many a times, but what motivated you after your journey from being a survivor through a thriver? What motivated you to start this NGO and work for the community?
Yeah, thank you, Hriday, and thank you, Linda and Dr. Lara, to join on this podcast. I just want to share that I never wanted to talk or share my journey from slavery to success, because mostly in the case of labor trafficking, I would say that 90% of the victims are male, and for a male, it's a shame or it's a stigma. But during my trafficking situation, I saw two victims die, whom I met here, and I think it was a call from God that somebody has to stand up and rise and talk. So that is what inspired me, and most important, that starting is very easy, but that journey is more difficult, and this journey could be maintained with support like Honorable Linda and Dr. Lara. So this gives me a lot of courage, hope, passion, and motivation. Like, I just want to share a small example that whenever I'm on a Zoom call with Linda Powers, and then she'll always call me after the Zoom call, like, "Hey, Harold, how are you?" So that makes me feel good, that gives me, because we are all survivors, and survivors, there are a lot of things that gets triggered. I'm talking on behalf of all the survivors. So just a call from delegates like Linda Powers from the Attorney General's office makes a huge difference in the life of a survivor or a victim, So I really salute Linda Powers and Dr. Clara. Thank you very much.
May I add something?
Sure,
May
sir,
I?
definitely. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to, that is such an important point. One of the things that the Human Trafficking Initiative is very, very, we make a pivotal point about having lived survivors that are part of our ambassador program, because we have commissions that work underneath the Human Trafficking Initiative, which are different subgroups that deal with things like housing, public awareness, legislation and policy issues. And it is so imperative to have survivors with lived experience have a voice at the table and be able to work with us hand in hand on getting some of these things done within the state of Ohio. And we appreciate and value our survivors in Ohio. And I just wanted to make sure that point is across, that we value our survivors here in Ohio.
Thank you.
It's a very great initiative by the office, and we are very proud to get connected with you. So, ma'am, here's my question. Now we want to understand the basic definition of what human trafficking is. You can stop me anytime if I am wrong, but what I understand from this definition is that taking a person from one place to another with force, or manipulating him or coercion or something, and exploiting him or her in the trafficker's benefit, for the trafficker's benefit, is called human trafficking.
Well, that would be the TVPA, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, which is a federal statute. When we take a look at what we have in Ohio, actually, our statute is just slightly different. And our statute, which was developed shortly, we started that particular statute. It indicates that under our code section, no person shall knowingly recruit, lure, entice, isolate, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, or maintain another person, knowing that the person will be subjected to involuntary servitude or be compelled to engage in sexual activity. For prosecution underneath this, the element compelled does not require that the compulsion be openly displayed or physically exerted. The element compelled has been established in the state of Ohio if the victim was overcome by force, fear, duress, or intimidation, fraud, by furnishing or offering controlled substance to the victim, or by manipulating the victim's controlled substance addiction. And recently in 2021, we added that minors under the age of 18 and for people with developmental disabilities, law enforcement officers do not need to prove that the minor was compelled to engage in commercial sexual activity. Now, within the statute of Ohio, transportation is not as important as it is in the federal statute, the TVPA of 2000. So I just wanted to note that our statute is a little more broad when it talks about the elements of human trafficking within Ohio.
Yes, ma'am. So now here I'm sharing a case. So what happens nowadays in India that people are moving to United States and Canada through illegal means. Now here people in India are not being manipulated, rigged or trapped. They are willingly joining hands with the agents to get themselves transported to USA via Canada border or via Mexico, Amazon jungle and everywhere. So in this case, is it a human trafficking? Can it be called a human trafficking or human smuggling or illegal migration or what we can call it?
In terms of transportation, that once again in Ohio, if it comes to the issue of whether we have undocumented migrants that are being transported within Ohio from other areas, or if they're coming to Ohio and they're transporting themselves, we would actually look at that particular element to see if there was, I like to call it a choiceless choice, because individuals may be coming here and they're trying to live the American dream, and they have the vulnerability of coming here, not knowing anybody, not having a support system, and they might be for example, put into a situation where we have labor trafficking that is going on. And when we talk about labor trafficking, that is an individual that would be working in the state of Ohio where they're getting no benefit in terms of they're not getting any monies for the work that they're performing, or it's so little. So what we would do is we would take a look at those cases, of course, and see what was the vulnerability behind them coming here, because those vulnerabilities may alleviate any consensual transportation or decision that undocumented migrant made to come to Ohio, because they are vulnerable. They're in a vulnerable situation.
So in this case, the agent or trafficker can be persecuted for a human trafficker.
Yes, if we took a look at that, and the main challenge that we have legally when it comes to prosecuting these cases, investigating and prosecuting these cases, is that a lot of our undocumented migrants are afraid to talk to investigators. They move from one job site to another job site where we lose track and cannot talk to those individuals. Because that's part of the reason. In Ohio, Dave Yost has made a concerted effort that he would like to go after labor traffickers. And he would also like to go after the contractors that the labor brokers are securing the undocumented minors for the job sites. So that is something that we within Ohio have made a priority to do. But the problem and challenge that we do have is we have our witnesses disappear on us, and some undocumented migrants may not realize that they're being trafficked, because they may be of the mindset that what they're experiencing now in the United States is better than what they were experiencing before. But that's not it's still slavery. It's still modern day slavery. If they are working and they're not being paid, or they're being vastly underpaid, that is a situation where they are being human trafficked. So it's something that we need to work on, and it is a major challenge for us, is having undocumented migrants understand that we understand that they're vulnerable, and the decisions that they make may not be consensual because of those vulnerabilities, and that we would like to prosecute traffickers, but we need some assistance to prosecute those traffickers. And one of the pieces that I was talking to Harold about yesterday is, and Harold, I don't know if you want to discuss it at this point, but the trafficking visas, those are really important. If the time to get a visa is much shorter than a U visa, and Harold can talk about that personally as he's went through that process. And it is, if we have cooperation from undocumented migrants, it is easier for us to have law enforcement determine that they are trafficked individuals, and applications can be made for the trafficking visas. So that's an important tool to be able to get the trafficking visas and be able to work within the United States, survive and thrive.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful answer and opening our eyes. So my next question is to Dr. Lara. So Dr. Lara, whenever I see a person, and if I believe or I feel that he or she may be a victim of human trafficking, so what medical signs should I look into her or him? Suppose his teeth are dirty or something like that. So what medical signs should we see to identify him or her as a victim of human trafficking?
Thank you for that wonderful question. And before I answer that, I'd just like an opportunity to touch on for a moment, just to add to what Linda was saying. You know, she mentioned how it's very challenging with this work when witnesses disappear or individuals don't feel safe in coming forward. And I want to state specifically in the state of Ohio, we are working extremely hard to educate healthcare providers on how to best support and care for victims of both sex and labor trafficking. And if you do come to a hospital or a clinic of some sort, we are there to treat you and to care for you and to connect you to the resources that you need. So we want to make that very clear to both the victims and survivors of trafficking that the hospital is a safe place and that you can feel safe in disclosing what your situation is, because we're understanding of those vulnerabilities. We're understanding of the fact that you may be undocumented, and we are here to help you. And that's part of what the HTI Commission is about. So I did forget to mention that I'm very proud to be a member of our healthcare subcommittee and to also be chair of our public awareness subcommittee as well. And part of that work that's being done is creating simulations under the healthcare subcommittee and policy templates to help healthcare providers know how to best care for these populations. So we want to make it very clear that, especially in the state of Ohio, the healthcare organization is a safe place for individuals. So then, to answer the question that you had, knowing that the healthcare facility is a safe place to disclose, you know, there is no specific sign or symptom that an individual might develop in the life of human trafficking. These folks, unfortunately, go through both physical, mental, and emotional abuse. Individuals could come into a clinical setting with something as simple as complaints of stomach aches or headaches just from the stress that they're enduring, or in the sense of a labor trafficking situation, they may have been injured on the job. But one of the biggest things that people who are out in the community can look for is those personal interactions with the people that are around them and what's happening in the community. You know, are you living next door to a place where people are coming and going frequently, all the time? Are you noticing a child who has become withdrawn and their grades have dropped in school and now they're not interacting with their peers? You know, we see so much in the media and in the news about human trafficking being abduction. And we're not saying that that doesn't occur, but when we're looking for the wrong red flag indicators, we're going to miss those individuals with the vulnerabilities that are right in our very own community, maybe in the house next door or maybe down the street. So, knowing that we need to be aware of what the red flag indicators are, that maybe a person can't come and go as they please, that maybe someone is answering all the questions for them, maybe they don't have control of their money, their ID, or their documents. Knowing what those red flag indicators are, being aware of them, and then understanding that the hospital and healthcare settings are safe places to go to, those are keys in supporting both victims and survivors of human trafficking.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. Thank you. So now my question is to Honorable Harold D'Souza. So, sir, let us take you back 15 or 20 years back when you were in the trafficking situation. What were the legal and medical help that you got at that time, and what is the current scenario, the help, the legal and medical help which is given to survivors and the victims?
I think this is a good question. I think there's a huge progress 20 years back and today. But before coming to that point, I just want to thank Linda and Dr. Lara, because see, I just saw some message from Pakistan. People are watching from Pakistan, India, different countries, right? So I just want to share with the Honorable Linda and Dr. Lara. I think in the month of March, Hriday, you are aware, it was from Gujarat. A family, husband 50 years old, wife 45, I think daughter was 23, son 20, died. Right? And the overall objective of this podcast or this interview is to save lives of people. Like what Linda said, she's from the law enforcement agency. So we want to help people, like, even if they get manipulated, and like you asked that question, Rita, that people are coming willingly, but not knowing that they are going towards their graveyard or towards their death. Out of 100, not even one makes it to the US when they come through this channel. And most of the people are paying like $100,000 or more to come here. And that is what the overall objective of Eyes Open International is, to create awareness that America is the destination, but countries like Mexico, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Guatemala is the source. So educate people through this channel. And I want Linda and Dr. Lara to share that you all are very affluent, successful ladies in the United States of America. But I want you to share with the audience that it's not easy. Like, you don't have a driver, you don't have a housemaid who comes and does the laundry. I want you to share this, because people think that just going to the US from Mexico, India, dollars is just going to fall. And after paying $100,000 to the agent, they tell them that they can recoup that money within 6 months or 1 year. I want you to share something on this to our audience, because I know that people are watching from Pakistan, everywhere. They would be scared to tweet, but they still want to come. And they think it is. I always say, yes, America is a paradise. It's a fact. We have to accept that. There is so much freedom of speech, freedom of religion. There is power of money. Everything is there. I do agree. But at the same breath, everyone has to work. So, Hriday, I will debate here little, and I want Linda to share something that, something about I'm not trying to enter into your personal life, but do you do the laundry, or do you do dishwashing, or do you have somebody to do your work?
I can tell you that I don't, you know what? It's a shared responsibility between my husband and myself. So I do not have someone that works for us and does those types of jobs within my household. I will be out mowing the lawn and weeding the garden. Those things do get done by my husband, but we do share those chores that we do in the household. Lara, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, so you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I feel like many a times I'm a jack of all trades.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not cleaning the house or cooking dinner or helping to take care of my family, then I'm either working or trying to do the volunteer work and raising awareness with human trafficking. So there is not anyone other than my family members that help me with the things that need done around our home as well. America is a paradise, but it is a paradise of which involves a lot of great work and effort as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to tell all our audience that if anyone is in Ohio and is a victim of labor exploitation or sexual abuse or LGBTQ harassment, they can always call 513-800-1863 or the National Human Trafficking Hotline number for all the people who are watching in India, Pakistan. If you have any person in the US who is a victim, they can always call 1-888-373-7888. Yeah, thank you, Hriday.
Thanks, sir.
Could I add on to that, please? That
Absolutely.
if you are seeing something in Ohio or you're involved in human trafficking in Ohio and you want to speak to someone immediately, please call 911, the local law enforcement agency. And if you cannot get a hold of them at 911, an alternative would be to contact the Attorney General's office, because we take hot tips that come into our office and we will make a referral to those as soon as possible to local law enforcement. And we have human trafficking task forces that are throughout the state of Ohio, which are comprised of law enforcement agencies from federal level, state level, and local level, as well as we have survivors that sit on those task forces and victim advocates. So please, if you need something immediately, please call 911 and talk to 911 about that, please.
I love that, Linda, because immigrants in Ohio and US, even if you put a gun on the template, they'll not call 911. So, friends, I want you to listen what Linda just said. Even they're Mexican. So, I just want you to share one more thing, Linda, on this platform. You're in Columbus. Somebody has seen this video or has watched this, and for example, he's a Mexican or he's from India, an immigrant, and is a victim of labor trafficking, and he comes and approaches you or Dr. Lara. I want your response. What would you do? Like, because people are always scared. Traffickers use 4 words to immigrants: I'll get you arrested, handcuffed, jailed, and deported. And they always nicknamed as illegal. What will you do in practical if somebody approaches you in Columbus on the street somewhere and says, will you get him deported, arrested? What will you do?
Sit down with them and find out what they need, what are their vulnerabilities, and trying to make sure that there is a referral to agencies within the area where we happen to be. I work out of 2 offices, the Cleveland office and the Columbus office. If I'm approached in Cleveland, I would try to find out, ascertain what those vulnerabilities are that they have, those immediate needs that can get them to freely exit out of their trafficking situation, and make sure that those referral services are being met so that we can at least get them a safe place, and then try to get whatever they need from there. It could be someone to talk to them legally. It could be someone to talk to them from a mental or psychological aspect. It could be we need to get that individual over to a hospital to speak with someone like Dr. Lara, and have them interviewed there because they might have medical issues. We're finding that a lot of our labor trafficking cases within the state of Ohio, the only time that they're coming forward of their own volition is when there is a medical injury. And so we would like to change that. We would like to be a place where they know they can come and we can try to assist. That's what the Attorney General's office, Dave Yost, would like to have as a priority. And those would be referral services to services that can assist.
Okay.
And I think if I could just add to that from the medical side of things, you know, in addition to providing education in the clinical setting, many of us, especially those of us who are on the HTI Commission under both the Public Awareness and Healthcare Subcommittee, we are working very hard to provide cross-training. So we are going out into the community and we're providing education to law enforcement. We're providing education to first responders. We are providing education in local county jails and to mental health services, because we have found that nearly 90% of victims who have been involved in the life of human trafficking have stated that during their time of exploitation, they were seen and treated by a healthcare provider and human trafficking wasn't recognized. But we understand that these individuals have these complex, multifaceted needs, which Linda just really stressed and highlighted. And so we have to make certain that everybody is on the same team, right? Because every single person needs to understand what human trafficking is, how to address it using a trauma-informed approach, and not only to provide them the resources that they need, but to ensure that those resources are able to see them through to meet those complex, multifaceted needs. So that's one of the beautiful things that I see with the HTI Commission and the work that we're doing here in the state of Ohio, is that if an individual was to approach one of us, we are ensuring that the entire team is receiving education so we can help them meet their needs. And I loved what Linda said when she said, the first thing that I would do is I would sit down with them. We are creating safe spaces so that people feel safe enough to disclose, and that if they do, we can see them through.
So, હૃદય, બધા મારા મિત્રોને આ જણાવવાનું છે કે તમે આ જો મેડમ પાસે જશો, જે એટોર્ની જનરલ ઓફિસમાં કામ કરે છે લિન્ડા ઓર ડોક્ટર લારા, તમને પ્રોસિક્યુટ ના કરે, તમને જેલમાં ના નાગે. So, હૃદય, you can continue with that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Lara. Thank you, Honorable Linda. So my next question is that since you have been involved for so many years into the human trafficking domain, what has been done before now, and what are the future goals to prevent human trafficking and to create awareness within the community? What can be a major game changer?
In terms of what I have seen, I have to confess that I have only been the director of the Human Trafficking Initiative in Ohio for a short period of time. Prior to that time, I actually was a prosecutor specializing in exploitation of elderly individuals and disabled individuals. I found that the grooming process was so similar between the exploitation of the elderly and human trafficking survivors. And one of my priorities when I came over to direct in the Human Trafficking Initiative is that I would like the myth that elderly and disabled individuals are not trafficked. So I am pushing for people to recognize that the elderly and the disabled are being trafficked, as well as younger individuals are being trafficked. So one of my personal priorities is that I am working on that myth to be destroyed so that people understand that human trafficking happens to all ages, all races, all sexes, all genders, all disabilities. It happens to everyone. And another piece that I am looking for the future is that we are getting out and doing training, and we are collaborating with a number of individuals at different levels and service providers. But there has to be a holistic approach to it. And we have got to work on what is the next step. Because we are providing the education, we are providing the initial services to protect when someone exits the trafficking situation. But where do we go from there? And I think that is the issue that we need to work on. So my goals that I am working on, and I am seeing with some of the people that I work with and collaborate with regularly, is we are looking at long-term housing. We are looking at job availability for individuals, training, and we are looking at the pieces of the schooling when it comes to minor individuals. And we are also looking at the issues of assisting with drug abuse if we have addictions. So we need to make sure that we are not only helping the survivors exit, but we are giving them hope for the future so that they can thrive independently long term. So that's what I see is the future to be in human trafficking. I think it's wonderful that we're getting to this point, and I'm happy that to be a part of it.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Honorable Linda. We really believe, and it was really a myth for us that yes, elderly and kids were not being trafficked, but you really opened our eyes. And what you mentioned that you are looking forward and you are working on to provide employment, schooling, shelter homes to the victims of human trafficking. So that's a question from our audience related to this. Maybe you can answer that. So here's a question from Rahul Mehta. He asks that I would like to ask the panel, what is your view on the other countries that have human rights and trafficking laws, but yet they are denied access to legal and medical assistance? So is there any answer to this question? Are you aware of any such countries where the government is not really helpful to the victims of human trafficking, or what shall be done in this case?
I think that legal assistance is a human right. It's a civil right that anyone should be able to have. And I was happy to actually read that Germany, the country of Germany, just recently made it is now required that every single business has to make sure that operates within Germany that their supply chain, they can attest that there is no labor trafficking going on in their supply chain. And I think that's phenomenal. I think every country should do something like that. But when it comes to legal assistance and medical assistance, I'll leave it medical piece to Dr. Lara. But when it comes to legal, I really believe that there needs to be, it's a human right. And we are doing that in Ohio. We are actually trying to get attorneys to volunteer their time to help.
Harold sir is showing us something.
No, this just, I want Dr. Lara to speak, but I was talking about that I'm an ambassador for youth for human rights at the United Nations. And like what Honorable Linda said, like Article 4, there are 30 articles. So Article 4 is no slavery. So everyone has the right, but many people are not educated or not aware. I myself was not aware, to be honest. But after I came to the US, I was introduced to this. Yeah, Dr. Lara.
Thank you so much. Reflecting on my journey through this work, I started this more than a decade ago, and this is going to kind of tie into what Linda was speaking about previously and to answer this question. So I started this work more than a decade ago, and at that time, I kept telling healthcare providers, we need to be talking human trafficking. We need to be talking human trafficking, and I couldn't get any buy-in in my community because at that time, people said, well, that doesn't happen here. And so finally, I got frustrated, and I'm a little stubborn, and I ended up sneaking 5 slides in to a presentation I was doing for medical residents on sexual assault nurse examiner. And all of a sudden, people started saying, oh, well, maybe we need to be talking about human trafficking. That was more than a decade ago. In 2017, I developed the healthcare policy for my former organization, but I couldn't implement it because I needed to have the resources to support the individuals. So it wasn't until 2021 that I was able to actually implement the policy, create an algorithm for the emergency room, and now all of that, the staff there are trained annually on human trafficking. My point in sharing this with you is this journey more than a decade ago took 5 slides, sneaking it into a presentation to get people to take notice. Over the evolution of that time, we have seen that the American Hospital Association now recognizes human trafficking as a medical diagnosis. We have seen the Ohio Attorney General's initiative come forward, having multiple subcommittees. And we are seeing more and more people rising to this cause. I can't speak to what's happening in other countries, but I can say that basic medical needs are a human right. Legal needs are a human right. And that while we cannot maybe change what's happening in other countries, we in the United States have the ability to rise to the occasion, to be a shining example, and to lead the way for other countries to adopt what we're doing to advocate for those vulnerable populations across the entire globe. And we're seeing that. It's a slow process. That's why I like to give you that timeline, so you can see that this evolution has taken more than a decade, but we're making great strides here. And as we make these strides and we learn what works for our country, we can set an example for other countries and nations throughout the world.
So to answer your question, both legal and medical are human rights issues. And the human trafficking itself is a public health issue, and it needs to be recognized as a public health issue.
So as Dr. Lara talked about the evolution, so nowadays we are seeing many cases of cyber trafficking. It's nothing basically a normal human trafficking, but with the help of the technology. Now they recruit people through a job website, job portals, or something like that. So is Ohio government doing anything proactively to stop this cyber trafficking or to create awareness among the kids or the adults to not fall into these fake jobs or something like that? Is there any initiative for that?
Yes, that is part of our with the Attorney General's office, we have a particular commission that is within our human trafficking initiative, public awareness, which both Harold and Lara and myself are on. And we are actively out with many other members that are from different professions. And we are talking to schools. We are talking to parents. We are talking to communities and churches. And we are also talking to law enforcement and training them on how they need to look out for it. The sextortion has exploded since COVID. And that is, when you take a look at the figures that the Polaris was looking at, they were looking at 41% is what they were looking at as the first initiation between a trafficker and a survivor that's been sextorted and trafficked. So we are definitely, that is a initiative that we are tackling as well in the state of Ohio.
We are very happy to hear that, Honorable Linda. So my next question is to Mr. D'Souza, that putting your foot into the survivor's shoes, what is the basic first legal and medical help a victim or a survivor need? Of course, they would be legally free. That's the main legal need they want. But what is the first legal and medical help a victim or survivor need?
I think the legal first thing that a survivor needs is that there are resources available. That is the continued presence. If a person is totally undocumented, does not have anything, a passport or no license, So he or she is entitled for continued presence status. That's not a visa, it's a status. Next is that they are entitled for a U visa or a T visa, and they will get the permanent residency card. And eventually, I always say it's a freedom, that's the US citizenship. So this is the path legally. In medically field, I always say that they need to be checked 4 things. They get 4 things complimentary. Victims of human trafficking, that is vision, dental, blood pressure, and diabetes. So they need to be checked irrespective of he or she not complaining. Third, but not the least, each and every survivor or a victim of human trafficking should go for counseling. For many times, a victim has a negative feeling. I never wanted to go for counseling. I was not forced, but I was requested by the FBI agent that you need to go for counseling. And I was from India, and I said, "What is she doing? She thinks I'm mentally sick." See, it's a different concept for me. In school, we don't have counseling, and Hriday knows very well. Then I will get stigmatized. But I just want to share one small example. When I went for counseling, my counselor was a young, beautiful lady like Dr. Lara, and she was counseling me for 6 months. I used to always say, I'm illegal. And she was listening to my counseling for the first 6 months. One fine day after 6 months, one word, 1 second changed my life. She said, "Harold, why are you saying you're illegal? You're not illegal. You're undocumented." And I said, "Oh my God, wow, I'll not go to jail. I'll not go to prison." Because all traffickers call you illegal. So what I should think, I'm a criminal. So when I said undocumented, oh, cool, man. Okay, I don't have any documents, but nobody can put me in jail. So these are certain things which is very important. And lastly, after 1 year, I used to always beat up myself. Like, what did I do? I was an idiot. I was useless, stupid. She said, "Harold, that's okay. You made a mistake. Accept it." So the day I accepted my mistake, I changed. So it's a learning process, and I always share that. So it's a long journey, but all long journeys start with a small step. And see, you said, what are the game changers, Hriday, right? Right now. Game changer and life changer is right now here on this Bharat FM Eyes Open International show, where Linda Majeska Powers is here supporting us, or the immigrants all over the world. Dr. Lara is here supporting us, and I want to tell you all, friends, that Dr. Lara is on the board of directors for Eyes Open International. So this is the game changer. I want Honorable Linda to share that they have appointed survivors at the Attorney General's office. That is, I think, Ambassador Advisory Council. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
And I served and they are the one who took the initiative. That's a big game changer. And I would appreciate if she can share that victims and survivors in Ohio and worldwide can see that how survivors are game changers. So survivors can change and save lives of victims and prosecute the traffickers. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable D'Souza, for such a wonderful talk. So my next question is to Honorable Linda, that are there any legal measures taken proactively to stop human trafficking from overseas? Because in USA, many people traffic through India, Bangladesh, Mexico, Guatemala, Pakistan. So is there any active measures taken from those countries to stop the traffickers from sending the people from India or Pakistan or Mexico to USA? Because unless and until we don't stop the trafficker from there, people will come to the USA.
In terms of trying to stop it at the inception of the country where survivors are coming from, we have active partners in Ohio that are at a federal level, and we work with those federal levels. When we are investigating our human trafficking cases, that is one of the things that our law enforcement is asking. The task forces know to ask where they are coming from and how they heard. Because we have, especially with a lot of the labor cases that are coming through, we're finding that there are specific countries that in their own governmental entities are promoting coming to the United States and telling falsities about jobs being here for particular amounts of money. And so we in Ohio are actively working with our counterparts in the federal government, who, of course, the federal government is working with other countries.
Great to hear that, ma'am. So my next question is to Dr. Lara. Dr. Lara, you are associated with Ohio Attorney General's office. You are associated with Eyes Open International and non-profit. You are into the medical domain also. So how a medical professional, a legal professional, non-profit, the government all together work on this human trafficking domain? And what are you doing currently all together for the same domain?
This is a really great question. And, I just want to say I'm very blessed and feel very humbled to be able to do this work with some of the most incredible people that I've ever met in my life. Each of you have stated these wonderful things about Linda, who is an amazing leader for us, and even myself. But Harold here is the expert, and we cannot stress that enough, that the survivors of labor trafficking and sex trafficking, they are the experts. They are the ones that we are learning so much from. And having them as a part of Eyes Open International, having them provide insight into the policies that are being made with healthcare, and having them part of the HTI Commission, and empowering them to share their voice in a manner where they are supported financially, where they're compensated for their sharing their lived experience, where they are able to provide insight into the things that we don't know from not having that lived experience. That is truly the key in networking all of these groups together to systematically drive change. And the other thing that I'll say too is that, evidence-based research has shown that there are 5 key entry points. Or not 5 key entry points, I'm sorry. There are 5 key access points where we can reach these individuals. And those access points include law enforcement, social services, child welfare, medical emergency, and family and friends. And when we can collaborate together, the HTI Commission, nonprofit organizations, healthcare entities, all of these different institutions that play a critical role in either the prevention, identification, treatment, or care of these individuals, collaboratively, we can learn from one another. And if we bring that survivor voice in, empower and uplift them, we have the potential to maybe change access points to exit points.
Yes.
And I think that is truly what everyone on this call is trying to do. And Linda is, she's very modest in saying she hasn't been doing this work for that long with the commission, but she has really taken the initiative to be a phenomenal leader, reaching out to each of us, attending our meetings, supporting us when we're out in the community presenting with us. And it takes a collaborative effort like that. It really, truly does. And so I think that is the key. The key is prevention, identification, and empowerment.
Yes.
We need to prevent, we talk about preventing our youth and our vulnerable populations from becoming traffickers, but let's change the narrative and prevent individuals from becoming traffickers, prevent individuals from becoming Johns, prevent them from becoming, we know human trafficking wouldn't exist if there wasn't a customer. It wouldn't exist if there wasn't a victim, and it wouldn't exist if there wasn't a trafficker. So if we can hit prevention from that angle, and then ensure with identification that we have that empowerment piece that Linda so beautifully spoke about, we can collaboratively drive change. And I'm very honored to be here with all of you to do this meaningful work. And I thank you.
We thank you, Dr. Lara, for such a great thought. I really like the thought about to change the narrative. That's a wonderful thought. So my next question is to Honorable Harold D'Souza that what challenges are being faced by non-profit if you are working in the human trafficking domain on a day-to-day basis?
I think you have challenges in everyday life for every human being. So I don't consider that as a challenge. So I like challenges in life, and turning obstacles into opportunities is my passion. And I'm very happy that we have Linda Powers supporting us, Dr. Lara. But I always tell four things about my journey of life: like be happy, think positive, never quit, and believe in yourself. So that is all I would like to share here today. And I just again want to like to thank Honorable Linda and Dr. Lara. But Linda, hats off to you. I don't know, like you're anywhere and everywhere. I was at Sandusky, she was there. I think you were at Columbus, she was there. She has her own portfolio about her legal high-profile position. I want to tell you all, friends, that simple living, high thinking, even after a dignitary holding such a high-profile position, being so modest, humble, honest, and a good human being means a lot to survivors. And she's a strong supporter of all survivors. It's not only me. Whenever I look at her face, reminds me of Mother Teresa. Yeah, I'll be very honest because Mother Teresa always said, do not waste time judging people, just love them. And that is what she does. It's very easy to say, very easy to preach, but here is somebody who just practices, and we in our family respect her a lot, and all survivors. I'll show your photograph to all the immigrants when I go. Why I click photos with you? I tell them, see this, she's here to help you, not to prosecute you. And that is what we are doing the show today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And before we wind up for today, is there any last message for our audience? We can start with Honorable Linda. Any last message for the audience?
Hope is there. Just please look for it and reach for it, and we are there with you.
Thank you. Dr. Lara, any last message for our audience?
I think the biggest takeaway, reflecting on this session and on the work that's being done, is that, we cannot force a person to hear a message that they are not ready to receive, but we must absolutely never, ever underestimate the power of a planted seed. And every opportunity that we have like this, here today, you hosting us, having us here, is just planting more seeds, planting those seeds of hope that Linda has inspired us to reach for. And so, and Harold with his journey and sharing his story. Yes, we must never underestimate the power of a planted seed.
Very rightly said. So, Honorable D'Souza, any last message for our audience? And also, along with, I would like you to share the resources again for our audience in the end.
Yeah, I would just like to share to all the victims, survivors, and community members, like what Linda said. If you are a victim of any crime, just call 911. And in Ohio, just call, like 513-800-1863. The National Human Trafficking Hotline number is 1-388-388. So don't be scared. I always tell people that live your life to the fullest. Thank you very much. And God bless America. Vande Mataram, Mera Bharat Maan. And thank you, Hriday and Bharat FM.
Thank you, Honorable Linda. Thank you, Dr. Lara. Thank you, Honorable Harold D'Souza, for sharing your valuable time and educating our audience. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.